Some oceanfront property in Arizona. From my front porch you can see the sea. I got some oceanfront property in Arizona. If you'll buy that, I'll throw the Golden Gate in free.
Well, look, Obama says words matter. I happen to have a copy of the Democratic platform. A plank on abortion. The Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe v. Wade.
That abortion will be covered as a benefit by one or more of the health care plans available to Americans, and I think it should be.
If you believe that there should be no federal funding of abortion, and if you believe there should be no change in the policy, and if you believe that we need health care for all Americans, we will pass the bill, and we will pass the bill.
Yeah. Yep. Uh-huh. I think it's time that, I said something about this. Well, let me start from the beginning. Hello, Think Tankers, and yet again, welcome to another episode. Okay, first off, today was supposed to be actually a whole different topic. This was not planned whatsoever. This is going to be actually later down the road. However, I felt compelled to discuss, well, you saw the title. And what I'm going to talk about today, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard on me. It's going to be hard on you. It's going to be hard on anybody watching this blog. I mean, it's a tough topic these days, anyway. And, I've avoided discussing it because I haven't felt like I've been able to articulate what I think is a way that might change paradigms for other Americans. I've heard so many arguments, and sadly, they've all come out as a cliche. However, and this is solely my opinion, I think I might have had a breakthrough. Okay, now we all know the moral argument on abortion, and if you don't, then frankly you need to get your head out of the sand because you've just been sleeping or frankly don't care. And I don't want to preach solely on the aspect of morality argument in American society because I think that's pushed big time, and people get it. They know the morality part. So what I try to do is I try to make this argument kind of a hybrid. It's a hybrid argument. Because, well, isn't that what the Constitution is? Isn't the Constitution a hybrid of spiritual beliefs and common law? Natural law equals humanity in its imperfect ways to form a more perfect union? So I tried to look at this argument as a hybrid in that regard. So I thought, let's go back to a time when a subject had as much passion and polar opposites as abortion does today. And I'm sure you can all guess where I'm going with this. And that time is slavery. Oh, yeah, I bet you thought I was going to go and start talking about Nazis, right? No. And frankly, I can't stand Nazi analogies anymore. Because, I've never really had any genocidal tendencies before, and I don't relate to German Nazism. I don't know about you, but I just don't. Give me something that has to do with American history. Link it to that. Something I want to put my heart into. Yeah, we fought the Nazis, but we are not like them. Now, just as slavery polarized the nation and the political parties back in the time, I feel abortion has done the same thing. Now, first off, I'm not saying that a civil war will ensue based on the tensions of abortion. However, the tensions are there. And as President Lincoln famously said, quote, "A house divided cannot stand, end quote. Now on to why I'm relating this to the mainly 1850s. The Republican belief, back when the party was formed, a central belief was that slavery was a wrong and an evil and should be banished, not based on solely on really the Constitution. Now, yes, they stayed within the constitutional frames to abolish it, but slavery was just inhumane. It was an act against humanity, a crime against humanity, and the Constitution, and the Republicans believe that the Constitution, frankly, hates slavery. They believe that the Declaration declared this, as well as saying all men are created equal, and the Constitution, of course, echoes the Declaration of Independence, and it does not mute it. And then you had the Dred Scott decision, which was huge, and of course, and if you're kind of hazy on what the Dred Scott decision was, seriously, go back and rehearse a little and research just a little reminder of what it was. Probably the most controversial, Supreme Court decision in American history. Okay, so the Dred Scott decision, and I believe the same goes for Roe versus Wade. It is the Dred Scott decision of abortion. The court decided that a right to privacy under the Due Process Clause in the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution extends a woman's decision to have an abortion, but that right must be balanced against the state's to legitimate interest for regulating abortions. Now, let me read to you what the 14th Amendment says, and see what you think. What you think it means. Okay, adopted July 9th, 1868. Oh, that sounds like after the Civil War. You would be correct. It was actually as part of the Reconstruction Amendments, and it says, its citizenship clause provides a broad definition of citizenship that overruled the Dred Scott decision, which held that blacks could not be citizens of the United States. Its Due Process Clause, here we go, prohibits state and local governments from depriving persons of life, liberty, or property without certain steps being taken to ensure fairness. So that's what the Supreme Court on Roe v. Wade made the decision off, the Due Process Clause. This clause has been used to make most of the Bill of Rights applicable to the states, as well as to recognize other stuff. And okay, there's Equal Protection Clause, requires each state to provide equal protection under the law to all people within its jurisdiction. Okay, this is they're talking about people. Okay. Now remember what Roe v. Wade says. It extends to a woman's decision to have an abortion, but that right must be balanced against the state's to legitimate interest for regulating abortions. I couldn't help but it sounds like the perverted popular sovereignty argument used by Stephen Douglas in regulating slavery to new territories, doesn't it? How ironic that the 13th and 14th Amendments were in order to mute the 3/5 Clause, and somehow it got entangled into abortion, which is just as a huge more issue as slavery. Now, the last time I checked, the Constitution never had an age limit. Am I right? Well, let me check. No, it didn't have an age limit. So, the only way to exclude fresh created life from the Constitution was to deem it not human, right? That's the only way you can do it. Wait. Didn't they use that same thinking when it came to already breathing people back in the 1850s? Well, they're not human, so they're not part of the Constitution. Duh. That makes perfect sense. Now you see, for slavery to work, back then, or any time, it had to be communal. In other words, the society had to have roving guards. People had to be, and these people might not even have slaves. They got to patrol the property, so if slaves escape, they can bring them back. They had to have fugitive slave laws. You know, there's a law, the fugitive slave law. In that law, if a U.S. Marshal, back in the day, if a U.S. Marshal came up to you and said, you are coming with me to go find this fugitive slave, by law, you had to go with him. That's communal. And he might not have not been a slave owner. It infects society. Now, if the slave, if my slave escaped and went to your house, even if you didn't own slaves, I was okay because you're going to turn them in. Because that was the law of the land. That's the way it went. However, if he took refuge at your house and you wouldn't turn him in, and there were other people against slavery, and it was a pretty decent majority, it wouldn't work. Slaves would be running all over the place. Slavery, the institution of slavery wouldn't work. And the same goes for abortion. It is a communal parasite on society. As there were no good slave owners, there can be no good abortion situations. As they did to slavery back in the 1850s, today they argue abortion as a policy issue. It is not a policy issue. When speaking in terms of humanity as a whole, when seeking life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is never just policy. It is natural law. Just as slavery became illegal, so must abortion become illegal. For those of you who might have had an abortion, all is not lost. You can be forgiven, move on with your lives, and help others see the unconstitutionality of abortion. Just as people back in the 1850s did. Now maybe this is just like every argument you've heard, and I'm just echoing the cliche arguments. And if I am, tough. I apologize. I guess I didn't have the breakthrough. Or maybe this put a new light on this argument. But just as the Republicans, Abraham Lincoln, and Frederick Douglass were radicals back in their day, and they were radicals. Slavery was the status quo, just as abortion is the status quo today. Pro-lifers are the radicals, are the true radicals of today. And before I finish, let me end with some statistics. Who's having abortions? Well, let me tell you. Let's break it down in religion, shall we? Women identifying themselves as Protestants obtain 37.4% of all abortions in the U.S. Catholic women account for 31.3%. Jewish women account for 1.3%. And women with no religious affiliation, 23.7%. 18% of all abortions are performed on women who identify themselves as, quote, born-again evangelical Christians, end quote. Okay, what about income? Because, all poor people have abortions, right? Well, check this out. Women with family incomes less than $15,000, 28.7%. Incomes 15 to 29,000, 19.5%. Incomes of 30,000 to 60,000, well, 59,000, 38%. And incomes over 60,000, 13.8. And last, why women have abortions? 1%. 1% of all abortions occur because of rape or incest. 6% of abortions occur because potential health problems regarding the mother or child. And 93% of abortions occur for social reasons. For example, child was unwanted or inconvenient. Now, I'm sure it wasn't hard to imagine my position on abortion. And yeah, morally, it's horrendous. But this is about this blog is about the Constitution. It's about government. It doesn't work. It's not part of the U.S. Just as slavery wasn't part of the United States back in the 1850s, abortion is not part of it now. And I'm sorry, but a majority of Democrats, there are some that are pro-life, but a majority of Democrats, just like in 1850s, majority of Democrats were pro-slavery. Today, they are pro-choice. This is the struggle of today. This is the fight, and it's just as important as the slavery issue. Now, yeah, like again, it's not going to start a civil war, but it's just as polarizing. I know it's controversial. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me at drakekelly@gmail.com or leave me a comment, and everyone can see them. So don't be bashful, because you can say whatever you want. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings. Thanks for watching, everyone. Empowering you to change this country. Talk to you very soon.
Mountain high and a river of blood flowed down forever.